think one of the key challenges is that this debate has really stigmatized development actors, arguing that security priorities often impede on the terrain of development actors, whereas security actors are often thought of acting on development issues that they don't necessarily have an expertise in dealing with, such as in creating jobs and livelihood opportunities, promoting economic growth, all things which are thought to have been able to generate greater security. I think what's really important is for a dialogue to continue, since in fact in many contexts development and security actors share an understanding of what improved security might look like.
I think when we're thinking about how development and security actors can work better together, we have to answer a question before that almost, which is why development and security actors might want to work better together. And I think from our perspective at Saferworld, we would say that that should always be about putting the needs of communities affected by conflict and insecurity at the heart of our interventions. So that would be the organising principle around which our interventions were made. I think once you'd made that conceptual jump, it would be then about looking at all the range of issues that contributed towards people's insecurity, their experience and perception of insecurity, and working out what different actors are best placed to address. So some actors in the development community might be best placed to work directly with communities affected by insecurity and develop their linkages with local security providers, whereas others are going to have more of an influence on the larger institutional and structural capacities of governments to deliver security and justice services, for instance. So it's just about working out what role each of us have to play in providing security and justice services for poor and vulnerable populations.
I think the key for any development and security actors working better together is the same as anybody working together. First of all, you provide the opportunity for them to meet and discuss things, and then they get to know each other. It engenders a bit of trust, even if they come at it from very different perspectives and don't agree necessarily on ways forward. At least they understand each other better, and it means that you can then develop ways of working together and working out what takes you forward and what doesn't.
It goes without saying, I think, that development and security are overlapped tremendously. And I think the challenge of getting actors from two very different institutional environments, as it were, to work together, I think in the area of security sector reform, which is my particular area of experience, this has largely been possible because there's been a shared concept, the concept of security sector reform, and this in turn has down the road led to shared policy frameworks and shared instruments. And the reason this was successful is not so much that everybody bought into the concept necessarily, or the policy framework, or the instruments, but what it did do was provide, as it were, a framework in which dialogue and debate could take place, in which actors from very different organizational environments with different political goals could actually sit down and find common ground and make compromises where that was necessary. And often coming from institutions where people had vested interest in working in a particular way, the fact that this dialogue and debate was able to take place within a shared concept or framework allowed them then to, in a sense, change their ways of working.
I think a critical element here is that we are looking into fostering dispute resolution spaces, partly because political transitions and development transitions are, of course, political. And you need to have spaces and people within these spaces who can manage disputes, who can also lead societies and states towards a new vision of their societies, and also work towards making the decisions that have been made stick with the populations.